how do I improve? What made you stick with fighting games when you got to that period where you was like, oh, I'm getting better, but I'm still losing? What kind of drove you to go, I'm not going to pick up another game, I'm going to stick with particularly Street Fighter?
I mean, at first it was a hobby, so I was kind of enjoying it at first. It didn't become a career for me until like 2019, late 2019.
Okay.
So I was mostly doing it as a hobby, and I was enjoying the results I was getting out of it. It's kind of like when you go to the gym, you start seeing progress after like 5-6 months, and then you start enjoying it, enjoying the process. I think that's what it was like. I'm still enjoying the process right now. I'm still trying to get better. I'm still not at my peak. So it's just nice when you see the hard work you put in and you see the results.
So the gains in both aspects.
The
gains.
Exactly.
That's what keeps you motivated to practice. I respect that. Okay, so another question is, have you got any international rivalries?
I don't want to call them rivalry because rivalry is back and forth, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So
have you got an international punching bag then? Is that what you're saying?
No. Okay. I'm not a punching bag for anyone, and no one's a punching bag for me. But there's a lot of people that I rarely get to play. You know.
Right.
Yeah. So for example, like let's say Punk, I only played them once since Street Fighter 6 released. I only played them like twice in Street Fighter 5. Let's say Mena, I didn't get to play him a lot in the SF5 as well. Takido, I didn't get to play him a lot. So I'm unlucky enough to face them only like once or twice throughout my whole career, and I haven't really gotten to play a lot of them multiple times in multiple tournaments.
Right. Is that the same case for Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5? Because you played those, if people don't know. You was pretty competitive in those. Was there any rivalries you could think of in that era of Street Fighter?
And SF5, I could say maybe Problem X. Problem X was probably the person I played a lot. And there was a lot of like banter between us too. A lot of back and forth between us too. So I enjoyed our games back then. I'm looking forward to also playing him in this game, but I think he was the one I played the most out of all the international top players.
Right. Was the reason you became rivals more because of how you went back and forth in scores, or was it because you both had this kind of like the banter behind the matches?
Yeah, that and also back and forth. I mean, if I was beating him or if he was beating me all the time, that's not really a rivalry, right? But it's been back and forth. It's kind of like Dago and Takedo, you know, they go back and forth a lot.
Right.
Yeah. So.
All right. Let's have a look here before I go to the audience. Pretty important. I think a lot of people here today might need the answer from this. How do you deal with getting tilted? Because I saw a lot of emotions after you hit people with Rashid mix. When that happens to you, especially in like a tournament setting, where does your mind go to keep your objective of winning in the front of your mind?
So to be honest, I don't really get tilted in tournaments. Okay. I start getting, you could say scared, but not tilted. Like I don't get upset while playing. I do get in casuals, especially when I play versus Ending Walker, for example.
Yeah, okay, that's understandable. I can see that.
Yeah. But as soon as I get like one game in, I win. Like I lose maybe 2-3 games, and then I get one game in, and then the tilt is gone. I just need to refocus, you know, recollect my mind, refocus, and get back into it. Because I start playing kind of like an idiot, and that affects me. Like I start making rash decisions and everything. So I just remember to slow down, take it easy, and as soon as I get my first game, I'm back in the zone again.
Interesting. I would think in tournament, it was interesting that you said you get more like maybe like nervous instead of tilted in tournament settings. When something you feel might not be in your favor or super unlucky happens to you in tournament, do you have like a ritual where you like have a way to calm yourself down and relax, or does it motivate you to go in more, like rush down? What kind of goes through your mind when things aren't going your way in tournament?
I just shake it off and go to the next game. Maybe go back to character select screen, shake it off and just go. But I try my best not to think about, like, for example, I dropped combo, I dropped super, I dropped whatever. I try not to think about it and just go to the next game, you know? Treat it as if it never happened, and it is what it is. Sometimes you get unlucky in tournaments and you can't really help it. It's just part of the process.
Yeah, you can definitely see that with your gameplay where other people might dwell on opportunities that they dropped and they never let it go, and then you can see them getting rushed down for the next match and the next match where they're still thinking about the opportunity or the drop combo that they had.
Yeah, just let it go, shake it off, and go to the next round, next game or next round.
Yeah. All right, sound advice. Okay. So, anyone in the audience wants to ask a question? Dunk, is it stream chat one or? Oh, you got stream chat one. All right. So you stay there for a second, Big Bird. I want to go over to man like Dunk, who's helping us. He's going to tell us the stream chat questions. Have you vetted them first? Are they okay?
Yeah, it's okay. At least I hope so. Question from Alanimity. How do you overcome a wall in your gameplay? When you reach a plateau where you feel like you haven't improved and can't improve, what's the next step?
For me, what I do, if I feel like I've hit a wall, I try to watch other top players of my same character, and try to pick up some stuff from them and implement it in my game plan. Like, for example, when Rashid first came out, I kind of had a wall with him, and I didn't know how to play this character exactly. And then I started watching Gachikun, I started watching JB, I started watching a lot of the other Rashid players, and I found out that I'm not using, or I'm missing a lot of stuff in my gameplay. So I tried to add it in, and go from there. So I feel like watching other players of your own character really helps a lot. And then you try to test it out against other players and see what you can do wrong. For me, I'm at a level where I can tell what goes wrong in my game plan or my usually it's very obvious, kind of like going to burnout too quick, not using meter properly, not optimizing properly, missing an anti-air here and there. So I think that's kind of how it goes. If it's defensively, you can fix it if you just watch your replays again. If it's something else I feel like you can improve, I think watching other players play your character helps a lot, at least for me.
Cool. That was a pretty good stream chat question. I'm surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised. So, let's talk a little bit about tournaments and like events you've been to. So, might be a hard question. What is the most important or influential tournament you've won?
I'm gonna be biased to say winning RedBull Committee, mainly because it was
shout out to RedBull.
Yeah, mainly because it was the first ever Street Fighter 6 big event, like prestigious event, and RedBull Committee has this like Hall of Fame where in every RedBull Committee event they put a picture of the winners, of the past winners.
Ah.
Yeah, like the last one, they had all the winners from when it first started till now. So I'm happy to be included in the next ones and the years to come, as long as the RedBull Committee gets to live. And it's also a RedBull event. It's also the first ever big event for Street Fighter 6. The other thing I would say, maybe getting second in EVO. I know it's not as cool as Angry Bird as you won EVO, but second in Street Fighter 5, and from losers bracket all the way from I got sent to losers in top 16. I managed to climb my way up all the way to top 2, and I think that was one of my most important achievements.
That's interesting because this goes on to my next point where you're talking about RedBull, which is kind of like an invitational, and EVO where you're starting in the trenches and you've got to make your way up to the top. You've got to go past everyone in your way. With those two and Street Fighter League, have you got any different preparation plans when going into those tournaments in terms of maybe knowing your opponent beforehand or being pool-proof where you're like more conservative and going for crazy stuff just in case you're going up against a person who likes to mash or anything like that?
I mean, I don't really treat anyone even if I not play against someone that knows the matchup, I don't really treat them any different than anyone else. It's actually better for me because it's hard for me to tell. I usually, when I go in, I treat them as if they know the matchup, and then I start changing. If I find out they don't. So when they know the matchup, that means I don't really have to change anything. I already play with a style that they like the opponent knows the matchup. It's when I play against someone that doesn't know the matchup, it gets a bit tricky the first round, the first game maybe. So I kind of like it when they know the matchup. It makes it easier for me. But for Street Fighter League, it's a team event. You have 3 other players with you, and you have to rely on them as well. And for example, there's home and away system. So in home, you get to pick your opponent, who you're gonna play against, and that's when you start studying that specific opponent only. You don't really study the whole team, and then you make strategies with your teammates, like who do you think is better here, and here, and who do you place in the captain match and all of that. So I think Street Fighter League is a bit different because other people are involved with you, while EVO is just you on your own, And EVO is mostly mental preparation and matchup preparation as well, but you don't really know who you're going to be playing at EVO. So it's mostly like making sure you're ready for every matchup.
Right. I want to go back to the Street Fighter League answer you gave, because we started with you speaking about the reason you like fighting games because you are your own person, right? Your thoughts are your own. You don't have to rely on anyone else. And you mentioned about the Street Fighter League being a team tournament. Your investment in your team, it might be, I think for anyone else who plays single-player games, pretty hard because there's not much you can do when you see your teammate doing something wrong. How do you deal with that? Do you, at the moment, jump in and tell them? Or after the match, you go we could work on this matchup, I can help you. How do you kind of circumvent someone else making a mistake, but it's affecting yourself?
I mean, when it's home and the opponent decides, I mean, my teammate decides to go for that specific matchup, then we assume that he knows that specific matchup and he's ready. So we take that, doesn't know the matchup out. And the most important thing about Street Fighter League is being honest with your team. Like, if you don't know the matchup, just say, I don't know the matchup. If you think the other person is going to beat you, just say the other person is going to beat you. There's no reason to act like you're that guy in a Street Fighter League, because you're not only costing yourself, but you're potentially costing your whole team. And that happens a lot. Usually when you have a team that's, fully honest with themselves, like, for example, if I go up against, let's say, for example, Mena, I would say I can handle Mena, but I think maybe Angry Bird is better to go against Mena because he has more positive results against him. But in a way, when it's home and away, when you're in away, you can't really help it, because they will pick who plays against you. You don't get to pick. So you just place yourself and you get picked whoever wants to play you. And you could get counter-picked, you could get bad matchup, player bad matchup, whatever. So you do what you can. But usually if you like your chances, then you can be in away. But if you think your chances are better off with the sub playing instead of you, then you have to be also honest with yourself there.
Okay. Before I go back to the audience or stream chat, I want to know this one personally. I don't want you to out anyone on your team, but I'll ask it this way. What would you do if you said, I want to play this player because I know the matchup, and someone else went, I want to play this matchup, I think I know it better than you? Do you do rock, paper, scissors? Do you first to one them to show that you know the matchup better? How do you deal with those situations?
Usually that never happens in the past Street Fighter Leagues I've been in. That never happened. But we usually decide, if he says he knows the matchup and I say I know the matchup, we usually decide if it's on paper, which is better. Okay. Is it that better, or is it this one better? Do I like my chances? Does he like his chances? And then we decide from there. But usually I really don't mind letting go and letting them play it if they're really confident. But they better not lose after that.
Do you say that bit out loud?
No, I don't say it.
But they know now.
But I have to trust them,
Right.
It is part of the process. You have to trust your own teammates.
Yeah, I mean, like you said earlier.
If I don't trust them, I'll tell them on their face, I don't trust you, so I'll play instead. Or something like that. But usually when I pick my own team, so I know who to pick and I know who to trust.
Well, okay. Yeah. That makes a bit more sense. Yeah, because you're the top dog. Whatever you say, your last word you think, the last word you say, that's what goes.
Yeah,
you call the shots. Okay. So, anyone in the audience? Otherwise, I'll go to stream chat. Now, production don't get priority. All right, we're going to go back to stream chat.
Hello. Question from Infamous Kojo. How was the transition from Marissa to Rashid?
It's actually easier than going from any character to Marissa. Because I played Rashid in SF5, I played Ken in SF5, I played Rushdown character in SF5. So going to Marissa was a lot harder than going back to Rashid. With Rashid, I feel like I was more at home. With Marissa, it was a bit difficult because I played the character that lacked tools that I usually had in previous games. And Rashid has all the tools I need. So the transition was good, but going from any character to Marissa was the hard part. But going from Marissa to any other character is easy for me because that's basically my home.
And then second question in chat from Breakfasty. What do you think about your unique strengths as a fighting game player? What are your weaknesses? What about your weaknesses?
My weakness is basically I think I lack patience sometimes and I make rash decisions sometimes. But my strengths, I would say I can formulate a strategy. I can anticipate well. I can make good decisions most of the time on offense. And I really like my offense as a player, as a fighting game player. And I know how to play it safe. I know how to go in. I know how to be, not go ham, basically.
Cool. Again, pretty good questions from stream chat.
Yeah,
thumbs up.
That's very surprising.
Yeah, no, informative for sure. All right, couple more questions before we get back to the games. This time we'll talk about how you've kind of elevated, I think, your prominence with a lot of streaming, right? From the inception of Street Fighter 6, you and Angry Bird have obviously been streaming a lot. Do you think that's helped or hindered or maybe a bit of both in terms of your streaming, being like a professional streamer now and a player, to competing?
So when I play, I'm usually a good multitasker. So when I play, I can talk while streaming. And in streaming, I don't really interact with the chat much while I'm playing, but I usually say my thoughts out loud, you know? Like, instead of keeping it to myself, I should have done this, I should have done that, and saying it between me and myself, I usually say it out loud to the chat, and so they get to know what I was thinking or what I wanted to do or what, you know, whatever goes in my brain. So it's kind of easy for me to play and talk at the same time. And I usually get a lot of good practice in while streaming, because sometimes the stream chat also has a lot of things that you don't know. Like sometimes I ask questions, oh, is this plus, is this minus, how fast is this, how minus is that? And I get the answer just like that. Now, a lot of people actually help. And sometimes when I play, there are some other players of the same character and they try to tell me stuff that I'm missing and all of that. So it's actually a good experience. Me personally, I enjoy streaming. I think it's very cool. Putting out content out there, helping other players, you know, helping the community. There's a lot of people that come to my stream and ask me questions, and I'm very happy to help and everything. There's also Angry Bird, speaking of streaming, Angry Bird just put out a guide against JP, and it was actually our most liked video on YouTube out of all the videos we put out. So that shows how much people lack the knowledge against JP, and a lot of them were pleasantly surprised to see the video and how much they were missing against JP. So if you haven't watched it, make sure you watch it. It's very helpful. It's against JP, one of the most hated characters. So if you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch it. It's FGC_birds. It's Angry Bird made the video on JP because that character took 200K from him. So he had to make it's personal with him.
That's an expensive MU to have to learn.
It's definitely an expensive money match.
But yeah, when you're talking about the streaming element, it makes a lot of sense. So you're good at multitasking and you don't get tilted. I think that makes you a perfect streamer because backseat stream chat.
That does annoy me still.
Oh, okay. So that does tilt you.
Yeah, but I ignore them. So
that's the best way.
Yeah.
Don't get toxic. Just
usually the stream chat actually helps me keep my cool, because I don't want to get tilted on stream and start, cursing and screaming and then become a meme afterwards.
Yeah.
So I have to keep my cool down, and playing on stream actually helps a lot,
That's fair enough. I have to keep that in mind because I think streaming sometimes is more nervous than playing in tournament because there's always going to be someone there saying something, and it is hard to ignore it because you will see it, and then it's kind of too late. It's in your mind.
I mean, usually no one really tells me anything in tournament. I mean, I'm kind of well respected, so no one really bothers telling me anything. But I mean, if they want to tell me, I can just tell them let's money match, and
That's understandable. One person that might be able to tell you something is Angry Bird, and obviously you play with him quite a lot on your stream. I was wondering, is there some things that you learn from playing against Angry Bird that you have to forget when you play other people because of the level he's at? And maybe your anticipation for what Angry Bird doesn't apply to another Ken player? Or do you take all the information you've gathered from Angry Bird into all of your matches when you're playing against someone like Ken?
So basically, playing against Angry Bird is kind of like approaching the last layer of your strategies. There's like multiple layers of your strategy. And it really depends on how well the person knows your character, how well the person knows you, and how good they are as well. So with Angry Bird, he takes all three. Like, he knows my characters, he knows me, and he's a very good player as well. So with him, I usually tend to play him at using the fifth layer of the strategies. But when I play other Ken players, I tend to go down a bit, Like, I don't treat them as their Angry Bird because that's different. So I try to find out what their habits are and use them against them. But against Angry Bird, it's kind of different because, like I said, we know each other a lot, so we usually play against each other instead of playing against the character. So it's a bit different when I play Angry Bird. But it's kind of wrong when you treat any other player or any other Ken player, even Tokido. It's wrong to treat him as if he's Angry Bird. There's some stuff that you're going to get away with against Tokido and not Angry Bird.
Okay, all right. One more question before I go ask the audience or stream chat again. Got one ready, poised. I like it. So another question. I think there's a lot of talk about character strengths, right? So Ken and JP are kind of like the main culprits at the moment. I wanted to ask you in terms of meta, like a most efficient tactic available. Do you think there's certain criteria that a character needs to be viable, whether it be something like a certain frame of a low attack or has to have a safe overhead? Not character strengths, but tools that a character needs to be viable in terms of like pools or winning a big tournament?
I mean, usually the main three things is cancelable low forward, which Ken has, Jury has, and Luke has. But when you look at it, Guile and JP don't, and these Guile characters are considered kind of strong. But Guile and JP both have played their own game. Like against Ken and these guys, you can play Street Fighter against them. You can play Street Fighter 6, against them. But against JP, it's kind of different because even if you manage to knock him down, you still can't pressure him as well as you can pressure other characters. You still can't bait him as well as you can bait other characters. So it's a bit different to play against JP. He also kind of has almost everything. He ticks every box in the game except maybe having a low cancelable low forward. But because of how strong he is, he doesn't even need low forward cancelable to be compete in this game. And he's considered now widely by everyone that he's the best character in the game. So that says a lot about his character's strength, you know? Being that strong and not having access to low forward, cancelable low forward, says a lot about your game plan. He also has a good drive rush is definitely needed. An overhead is a plus. Projectile is also a plus. And he also has one of the best projectiles in the game that he can also fake out. You can jump in on reaction, but if he fakes it out, he can anti-air you for a billion damage. A good anti-air is definitely needed. Good damage, good drive rush. How well he handles drive impact. JP handles drive impact very well. Even in burnout, he can just regular amnesia, if your string is not tight and he gets big damage. So yeah, I think there's a couple of things that can be considered, but it doesn't apply to JP. It applies to the other characters before him.
Okay. Just for my mind, when you mention good in terms of like low forward or anti-air, do you mean in terms of damage you get from them, or in terms of consistently being able to hit them?
Having
both.
Having low forward, basically, a cancelable low forward basically means you're gonna get in whenever you want to, at the cost of 3 bars, obviously. So that's already a big plus, you know. Someone like Ken, as soon as he pops low forward drive rush, if he guesses right, if he throws you obviously. If he guesses right, you're in the corner already. So low forward plus having, you know, good corner carry, good damage, being able to get in that situation consistently, that's what makes a good character, you know. And Ken doesn't really have to burn a lot of meter to get you to the corner. It's just, if he gets a hit, you're already in the corner. He has drive rush to get in again. He has one of the best drive rushes in the game. JP is the same. JP, he doesn't really need to get you to the corner, but every hit he does pushes you full screen away. And then you have to play that mini game where you could just keep jumping and keep trying to get in on him. And he also is consistently good at stopping drive rushes. That's also one thing that's very good, yeah.
Stopping drive rushes, yeah. Everyone's been talking about a drive rush. Okay, cool. So we did have an audience question. Bear with me, Big Bird. Want to tell everyone your name and then shoot the question?
Yeah, what's up? My name is AJ, and so basically what I wanted to know, right, is for you personally, what do you find to be the most difficult matchup that you struggle with? And when you have matchups like that, how do you go about practicing it, learning it, and getting good at, you know, beating that matchup?
So basically, Jury was one character I was struggling against with Marissa. When I struggle against a character, I tend to play that matchup a lot and start to see what I'm doing wrong in that matchup. If I notice what I'm doing wrong and if it's fixable, I go on with it. If it's not worth it, then I just pick another character. Right now, I have Rashid, so I have Rashid for Jury, and I think that matchup is very good for Rashid. So I think that's one way to fix it. If you can't find solutions to the character, you might as well pick another character and not struggle through the bad matchup. I could still win with Marissa and Jury, but it's just not worth it to play not a losing matchup, but it's like a personal struggle matchup, you know? It should always make it easier for yourself, not harder.
So you've got no qualms with picking the top tier?
I mean, all my characters kind of, like, I played Ken, I played Marissa, and I played Rashid, and they're all considered, like, high tier. At least high tier.
Are they high tier because of how you play them, or do you think the character carries players that aren't as strong as most people?
All the top tiers carry players.
Yeah?
All the top tiers. Like, there's no top tier in the game, in any game that doesn't really get carried by, that doesn't really carry the player.
Okay. I thought maybe I'm thinking about stuff in terms of like C Viper. She was a really strong character, but you still needed to be good at fighting games to execute her. Do you think there's no one like that in 6?
No, I mean, so with C Viper it was different. It was execution. So it's more like personal practice.
Right.
Yeah, and at the highest level, you don't really count execution as... I mean, you count execution, yes, because there's higher chances of dropping your combo. But in a high level, you assume like the execution you have is good. So, you know, then when we talk about character strength, we talk about how good they are at the highest level. So I think Viper was a very strong character, and she definitely carried. Like, I think in my personal opinion, I think every strong character carries. Otherwise, otherwise they wouldn't be called strong.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. Totally understandable. All right, so we'll get a couple more questions. If you've got any, two more from stream, probably 2 or 3 more from the doc, and then we'll talk about the matches that you've got after this.
Okay.
So, man like Dunk, we're back to you.
First of all, thank you everyone in Twitch chat for your questions. Question from Alan Amity. What are some unique qualities that high-level players like yourself think are necessary to be at that level? And how can someone at a lower level begin applying them?
I think anticipation is one of the most important things to have. Usually people confuse anticipation with reaction. They see someone doing something, reacting to let's say, a special move or something, and they think, oh, that's good reaction. But usually to have good reaction, you need anticipation. When you anticipate something, it's easier to react to. As well as trying to formulate a strategy. I think formulating a strategy is also a good aspect of becoming the top player. And let's say, good decision making. I think good decision making is what separates the top from the average player.
And a second question from chat, from Swagenheimer. Have you missed your gym routine at all while you've been on vacation?
How do I miss?
Have you missed your gym routine?
I always miss my gym whenever I travel. I don't go to the gym when I travel.
Purely relaxation.
I treat it as my deload week, so.
I'll ask you a question based on the whole gym routine. Everyone knows you like Swolbird as well. Have you got any sort of rituals or mentality that transition from how you practice in Street Fighter to how you get your gains in the gym?
I mean, I think it's the other way around. Actually, I think being good in the Street Fighter actually helped me transition to the gym very fairly. Because with the game, in order to become good, you need to be consistent. You need to have discipline. You need to have motivation, and all of that. And I think all those three, you share them with the gym. The game shares them with the gym. At the gym also you need discipline, you need consistency, you need motivation, and all of that. So I think they kind of go hand in hand. But to answer your question, if being at the gym helped me in the game, I'm not really sure. I do think maybe I have a clearer mind, and it's like when you go to the gym, obviously your heartbeat goes up, right? Because you're working out, obviously. There's similar situations in the tournament as well where your heartbeat goes up, especially in clutch moments. So I think when your body is used to, that's why Takedo does the jogging in his place, right, before every match, because he's trying to get his heartbeat up. So when he goes to the match, his heartbeat doesn't suddenly go up. It's like his body's already used to it, and I think that kind of helps as well.
Sort of a way to not get caught out by adrenaline.
Yes.
Because he's already
in the adrenaline is already there. His heartbeat is already up.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know that's why I did it. I thought he was just flexing.
I think that's why I did. I remember. I think I asked him or someone asked him, and that's what I heard.
No, that's a good mentality. I think people have different ways to prep for like tournaments. Some people like have an energy drink, and it might heighten their reaction time.
I definitely think that, to be honest.
Okay.
I definitely think that.
So I've seen it go the other way where they're too antsy and they're too ready, and they might get the acne, but they're too jittery to hit combos.
That depends on how well they handle the caffeine, to be honest.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's one thing. It works for some people, not for others. I know personally for me, I used to not eat when I went to tournament because that used to make me lethargic and a little bit slower.
Yes, I do think that. I do think like eating heavier meals at tournaments definitely makes you a bit like I want to say not sleepy, but a bit lazy.
Like sluggish, sort of.
Yes, you don't feel as sharp.
Right, exactly. So, I think that's really interesting how you spoke about the game transitioning into the gym. So I think a lot of people would think, oh, the dedication that you put in the gym would translate to how hard you work in the game.
It also works the other way around.
Yeah. Okay, so it just depends on what one you start off with, right?
Exactly.
Did you feel you have the same motivation when you started going to the gym as that you had in fighting games, or was it more I just want to do this on the side and see where it takes me when it comes to getting the gains?
I mean, when I first started going to the gym, I just wanted to lose weight. But like I said earlier, when you start seeing the results, you start becoming more addicted. And I think that's how it was in fighting games. When I started seeing results, I started beating players that were beating me, I started enjoying it more and more and more. It's when you don't get the results that you kind of feel iffy about it. But when you start seeing results, it's hard not to get addicted.
Okay, all right. So I think almost near an hour of Q&A.
So
got some meme questions before we start.
Meme question.
Meme questions. So I've only got 3. They took me a while to come up with. Hopefully they're funny. Right. First of all, you just got to say which one you like more. Coke or Pepsi?
Diet. Any diet? Any diet version? Any diet version, to be honest.
You know what? That is a very good answer because someone can't get annoyed which one you pick.
Yeah.
So, diet of either version, right?
Diet of any version, to be honest.
Okay, all right. So, next one. Rashid or Marissa?
I'm kind of enjoying Rashid more, to be honest, right now.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm kind of enjoying Rashid more.
All right. Most important one. Perfect or Shooty?
No, Shooty definitely sounds better.
Shooty? Okay, that's the correct answer.
Shooty definitely sounds better.
All right. That's all the mean questions. Thought all right. But now.
Ending Walker?
Oh, I should have asked Ending Walker the problem, but I'm not going to ask you that yet. But I will ask you predictions. What do you think? So, stream, we are going to get Big Bird versus Problem X in the first of 10 and Ending Walker. What are your predictions against the two players in each match in the first of 10?
I mean, I don't know, to be honest, but I'm trying to win, obviously. I'm not trying to lose.
Are you trying to 10-0 on both?
No, I can't 10-0 them. No way.
Okay, so, all right, what do you think is the realistic score?
It's kind of hard to say, to be honest. Ending Walker depends on how fast he gets me tilted.
Fair enough.
Yeah. If he gets me tilted early in the set, then he might get a couple of games. He might get a lot of games. With Problem, I mean, I haven't played. The last time I played him, it was like 5-4 online. So I haven't played him offline at all, actually. In C5.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to playing him in this game. I mean, I played him in the RedBull community. But
Yeah,
he was playing Lily.
Right. And yeah, I was about to say, back then he was playing Lily, and Ending was still floating between Ryu and Honda, but mostly Honda, I think.
He was playing more Ryu, actually. He still plays more Ryu right now.
Oh, more Ryu now. Okay. Well, I saw he's a bit of a flex with Geef.
Yeah.
That's what the Geef
not
flex.
anymore, not anymore.
That was fair enough. You should flex about that. But yeah, speaking of the two, we are going to probably go to a quick break. But thank you, Big Bird, for your time. Everyone else give it to Big Bird as he answered everyone's questions. He wanted to answer them. And yeah, we'll see the answer to the question. Ending Walker or Problem, depending on the scores from Big Bird. We'll see you guys on the other side.
All right.